Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and this is such a cool episode with Reverend Lynn LaBorde. Now, we started off with some technical interference, which sounded really strange on my side. Through my headphones, I was hearing all this clicking, all of this interference. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but everything was getting broken up, and it was so bizarre. And now I've gone back and listened to what was recorded, and none of it is in the recording as far as I can tell. But I couldn't hear what she was saying. It was so strange, and it was not like anything that I've experienced. Super, super bizarre. So we decided to switch over to Zoom, and then the audio worked better. I didn't have the interference anymore, but it still continued to be a profound episode. In fact, Reverend Lynn said that she never has channeled on a podcast, but I asked, because she said there were 17 beings with her, and I asked if anybody wanted to, if it felt like anybody had anything they wanted to say or share. And so she said, yeah, Mary Magdalene wants to come through. So Mary Magdalene has an amazing message, and then she has a beautiful message for me personally, bringing in Archangel Zadkiel, which if you've heard Katish Haberfield's episode, she channels Zadkiel, and I have felt a relationship with Archangel Zadkiel based on a Gene Keys reading that I had. And with Katish and I, we kind of determined that probably that's the same being. So I already feel this connection, although that's a pretty lesser known archangel. He doesn't typically get a lot of recognition. It's usually more Archangel Michael or Gabriel or Raphael. So that was really significant. And she said, and Lynn said that he never comes through, like she never hears a reference to him. So really poignant. So I'm excited for you to hear it. Spiritual teacher, channel, and alchemist Lynn LaBorde empowers individuals to unlock their intuitive gifts and embrace their true essence. With over 40 years of experience, Lynn is a certified Akashic Records practitioner, ordained minister, psychic medium, yoga teacher, and full-body channel for divine beings like Hathor, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus, or Yeshua. As a transformational alchemist, Lynn guides clients on a journey of self-discovery, transforming darkness into light and helping them reclaim their inherent wholeness, the sacred, beloved, and divine beings they truly are. So we'll dive in just a moment, but first I want to let you know about Love Tuner. I had Love Tuner's founder Sigmar Berg on a previous episode where we talked about the magic of sound frequencies, specifically the love frequency of 528. Love Tuner gives you simple and immediate access to this frequency throughout your day. There are so many benefits, from utilizing the power of the breath, to being in the sound frequency itself, to just taking a couple of minutes pause. I've personally loved using it for infusing the frequency into different rooms and spaces in my home. Use the link in the notes and code KARA, K-A-R-A, for 10% off. That's K-A-R-A for 10% off Love Tuner. And now enjoy this episode. Well, welcome, Reverend Lynn. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thanks for coming on.
Kara, thank you so much for the invitation. This is thrilling for me. I love doing these.
Yay. Well, let's start by you giving us a little background about how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. When I was 11 years old, my mother gave me a copy of a book that was called The Sleeping Prophet about Edgar Cayce.
Oh, Edgar Cayce, yes.
And it detailed how he would go into trance and he would bring forth messages from the Akashic Records. And that was 1971. So at that time, there were very, very few books on the subject. You had to go to England to have your records read. And my sister and I both read this book. It affected and impacted me because I wanted to know about everything mystical. So there was Shirley MacLaine and her series of books. There were the Seth materials written by Jane Roberts. There was Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Dayken. I mean, we're going back a long time, over 50 years ago. But I was just fascinated by it. So over the years, I began to do studies in metaphysics. I received a ministerial training license. And then I found a woman who taught people how to read the Akashic Records. Her name is Linda Howe. And I took a 6-month training with her, and it was really incredible. And it became second nature to me to be able to see. I have very highly developed psychic abilities, so clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairgusto, clairalliance. So that's the ability to taste and to smell and to hear and to see and to receive messages from spirit, to feel their presence. So I started a psychic development academy with people, and I have been teaching them how to use their psychic abilities, how to read the Akashic Records, how to do past life work, how to basically remove entities from people, how to deal with trauma that's happened to people through other lifetimes that impacts this current lifetime. And I now have a thriving business. I've been in business since 2017. It's called Soma Life. And I have like over 3,000 videos that are up on YouTube. I spent a year with Mary Magdalene where we went through the 365 lessons of A Course in Miracles. And she brought her gorgeous feminine wisdom through. And that turned into a book called Channeling Magdalene, A Year of Love. She and I are writing a second book together right now that's called La vie et la vérité de Mary Magdalene. And it's the life and truth of Mary Magdalene. So I channel her. I go into churches. And in fact, I'm heading to Europe to finish the book this Thursday. And I'll be there for a month.
Wow.
And I go into churches and I go into trance. I go from beta to alpha to theta. I go into trance. I bring her forth. And then she brings me the most extraordinary truth of her life and her relationship with Yeshua, who everybody knows as Jesus, their children, their life together, how she got to the south of France. And it's been one of the greatest adventures of my life.
Wow. Well, I'm curious if you noticed when you started talking about Mary Magdalene, like kind of the last minute of what you were saying, there was definite like audio interference that was very like, I wonder if you sensed anything on your side, if the energy shifted.
Yeah, because she showed up. When I call her name out like that, like she's here present with us now. So I'm what's called a full body trance channel and unconscious channel. So I transition from beta frequency, which is kind of like left brain that's reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then I go into alpha, which is kind of like a meditative state. And then I go into full theta, which is where you go into the quantum realm. And that's where I meet her. And we kind of switch positions. She comes into my body and she speaks through me. And it's an extraordinary experience. So I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recordings. I've channeled 30 ascended masters, so she's not the only one. I also channel Yeshua, Jesus, and I channel Mother Mary, Archangel Michael, Venus, Hathor.
I'm not sure if you're still talking.
Said, over 30
I'm getting the weirdest sounds. Sorry, I've got the weirdest sounds when you speak in my headphones, like bizarre, male, female, like all these. I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see what comes through in the recording, because this is bonkers. Like I don't remember ever hearing anything like this. I've used this software a lot, so it's. I apologize if I cut you off, but it just went.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So Spirit told me that your software is sensitive enough that it's picking up their voices. I channel 30 ascended beings, and a lot of them are here. They're very excited about this connection. So what you're hearing is them, which is fascinating.
I've got full body chills. Yeah, I hope that it's picking it up in the recording, but it's hard for me to know because the way the software works is it's recording on your side, it's recording on my side, and then it's all shooting up into the cloud.
Wow.
And so I don't know if like what will come through is going to be clear because it's going to come from your side, or if the viewers are going to be able to hear this, but it is fascinating.
My image is frozen on my screen, so there's no video on my screen.
Okay. Wow. Well, let's talk. I mean, I'm just like blown away because I think that we talk about this on the podcast. I know you're familiar with this, but as the frequency rises,
Mhm.
technology can
Oh,
be
I have a
affected.
crazy story to tell you. So I got trained to channel in 2017. And the very first being that came to me was Athena, Pallas Athena, the daughter of Zeus. She came to me in a meditation and she said, I am Pallas Athena. Will you come with me? And I thought, daughter of Zeus, how bad can this go? So she takes me in a meditation underneath the water, brings me down to the bottom of like where the Marianas Trench
Okay,
is,
now I've lost the
and there's a
audio. I
metal
don't know if you
door
can
there.
still hear me.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can. I
Okay,
can.
I can't hear you anymore. This is so weird.
So bizarre. Okay. Can we stop the recording? I have an
um,
idea.
let's see. If you can't hear me, I am going to I'm going to send to your email a Zoom link. Let's
Okay.
try Zoom. We'll pick up where
Perfect.
we left off and we'll see how that
Perfect.
goes. Okay? Or like I want to
Absolutely.
keep even I don't care what it sounds like in what we just Okay, so let me catch everybody up here.
Okay. Okay.
So we've been on a different software that I use all the time, and it does have it comes and goes. Like I have had issues with it sometimes, but I love the quality of it when I can get it to work. But never had anything like this before. Never had anything like this. And so you're sharing your story and I don't even know what the recording is going to sound like if listeners are even going to be able to hear what I was hearing, but it was all of this interference, all these frequencies. There were male sounds, female sounds, and it was your voice, but it was all these, pattern interruptions and like an encodement, almost like Morse code or something, but with sound. I don't know how to explain it, but it got to the point where it even like the audio just quit. So we've moved over to Zoom now, and we'll just have to see if this is going to be more stable. Zoom tends to be more stable, but I've never experienced what we experienced. And I kind of hope that the audio
I'm
did
sure
capture it.
that would be amazing. So I have to tell you this crazy story. In 2017, I am in a meditation, and all of a sudden, Pallas Athena shows up. And I'm like, okay. She says, I am Pallas Athena. Will you come with me? And I'm thinking, daughter of Zeus, like, how bad can this go? And she takes me underneath the water. She takes me to the region that is known as the Marianas Trench. And at the very bottom of the trench, there's this huge metal wall. And she says to me, you created this. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking, look, I've never taken drugs. I'm not an acid flashback girl. Like, what is this? And I came out of it. So I reached out to one of my best girlfriends. Oh God. Oh God. Someone just tried to call me. I have to put my phone on do not disturb.
Oh, okay. It didn't come through on our
Okay,
side.
okay, perfect. So I reached out to one of my best girlfriends who's trained over 2,000 people to channel. And I said, Wendy, the craziest thing just happened. I said, Pallas Athena came and she took me under the water and showed me this civilization that lives underneath on the inside of the earth. And she said that I created this. And she said, well, maybe she's the one that you should start to learn to train to do channeling. And I'm like, listen, I've seen the movie Ghost. I'm not letting any dead person come into my body. You're in your mind. Like, what'd you do your hair that time that guy comes into Whoopi Goldberg? I'm like, no, 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 that's not happening. He goes, well, it's not exactly like that. And I was like hugely skeptical. I'm like, no. She goes, listen, come to my home. We live close to each other. I'm in New York, she's in Connecticut. She goes, come to my home and let's see what happens. So I go and I'm like so resistant, but I try it out. And by the grace of God, I'm able to channel Athena. So I come back to Huntington and I call some of my best friends and I get them to come over to my house. And I'm like, I'm going to channel Athena for you. And one of my girlfriends holds up her Android and she goes, I just got a new Android. I'm going to video this. And I go, great. So I go into trance. I channel Athena. As I come out of trance, my girlfriend Jennifer's holding the phone and her mouth, like she's white and her mouth is open. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, you're not going to believe what I just filmed on video. She said there's all these green bubbles, and as she goes to turn it to me to show me the recording, her phone goes black. And I go, what happened? She goes, I don't know. She turns the phone back on and the video is completely gone. And so I go, Athena, what was that? And she said, we didn't know that the new androids could capture us, so we took the video away. I kid you not. Like, true story, like, feel the goosebumps, right?
I know, I feel them.
I said, but why? And she said, if you saw that video, you would never channel again. It would have scared you too much. So we had to take it away. And to this day, so one time I was like, green orbs, because they look like these bright green orbs, like thousands of them falling down on the screen as she's videotaping me channeling Athena. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So I
Wow.
showed her the picture and she goes, oh my God, Lynn, they looked like electric green, like it was the craziest thing. So I know that fakakta things happen with devices when my energy comes through, and there's 30 beings that I channel. So it's whether it's Mother Mary or it's Archangel Michael or it's, Pallas Athena or it's Venus or it's Jesus or Mary Magdalene or Hathor. When they come with such intensity. I once channeled the Queen of the Fairies. Her name is Galandrea. She's absolutely incredible. Galandriel. Sorry, Galandrea is a dragon. But like, this is what happens in my world. Like, I used to be a banker. I managed $500 million. I worked for a private bank in Beverly Hills. I'm like this very ordinary person. I practice yoga. I'm I'm a large woman, like I'm like just a typical New Yorker, right? I love pizza and cheeseburgers, even though I don't eat it anymore. But I have this gift of channeling and I go into a theta state. So I'm a deeply unconscious channel. And, back in, as I said earlier, back in, God, when I was 11 years old, my mom gave us a copy of an Edgar Cayce book. I think I have it on my bookshelf. That was called The Sleeping Prophet.
Hmm.
This sweet little book, The Sleeping Prophet, about Edgar Cayce. And I read this book and it says that he goes into the Akashic Records. And I was like, when I heard Akashic Records, it resonated with something inside of me so deeply. So in 2017, all those years later, like 50 years later, I'm able to take a class with Linda Howe, who wrote the ultimate book on how to read the records called How to Read the Akashic Records. And
Straight to the point. I have that book too.
right. But
Yeah.
I trained with her in person. And she teaches you a prayer. So I say the prayer and I go into the Akashic Records, and there are these beings jumping up and down, screaming at me, halls of Amenti, halls of Amenti, halls of Amenti. And I'm terrified out of my mind. So I quickly close the records and I'm like, what the hell was that? So I reach out to Linda and I go, Linda, what was that? And she said, well, obviously they're excited to see you. Do you know what the halls of Amenti are? And I said, no. And she goes, well, why don't you Google it? So I Google halls of Amenti. Cara, you can't make this stuff up. It says the halls of Amenti is where the Akashic records were kept in Atlantis. And when Atlantis crashed, Thoth put them in a spaceship and flew to the land now known as Egypt. And I'm like, get out of here. So I came to find out that my higher self is a being who calls herself Sahaniel, but she's actually Haniel, the archangel, and she is connected to the planet Venus, and she is known as She Who Remembers, and she is in charge of the Akashic records. So that's all the stuff that I'm made of.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot.
I know, it's crazy.
Wow.
So I have trained close to 1,000 people to read the Akashic records. I have done so many readings myself. I teach people how to open up their psychic gifts. I teach them how to read the Akashic records. I teach them clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairgusto, where you can taste from spirit, and clairalliance, where you can smell. And my psychic abilities are just wide open. I literally walk around being able to read people's Akashic records. It's a trip. It's a trip and a half.
Wow.
And it freaks a lot of people out, but it's just the truth of me. It's how I operate and how I work.
Now,
And
have you always been like that, or has this developed, was 2017 some sort of key year for you,
And
or?
then what was a key year for me was 2009. I went with my Kabbalah community to Israel, and we were at the Mount of Olives, which is the graveyard that's across from the city of David. And I make my way over to this gravestone that's like the most effervescent color of blue, kind of like this color blue, painted blue. And they're known as the Sadiqim. They're these 36 beings that were known as these highly evolved Kabbalists. And people are laying their hand on this gravestone. And unbeknownst to me, it says in Hebrew, which is the same as Aramaic, on the top, Who comes to me pure of heart, I will speak with thee. So I put my hands on the gravestone. A golden shaft of light opens up. It comes down, it surrounds me, and the guy in the grave starts talking to me. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? It's kind of like how Hathor came to me in 1997 when I received my first Reiki initiation. And he says, welcome home, beloved. Your father is waiting for you. And I'm like, my father? And he says, Abraham. And I said, Abraham. And he says, you know him as Avrum. So since I've been young, I started meditating when I was really young, at 11 years old, when I was reading the Edgar Cayce books. And there's this being who would come. He kind of looked like David Strathern with salt and pepper hair and thin guy. And he introduced himself as Avrum. Well, Avrum is who became Abraham the patriarch and the father of three religions. And I was one of his daughters, although the daughters are never spoken of in the Bible. He had a daughter, and my name was Sarah, and I was named after his sister wife. And so this whole download of crazy memories opened. A few months later, I'm with my best friend, Veronica, and I go, Veronica, there's a guy here, and he wants to talk to you. And it was the spirit of a man named Sam. No, Steve, Dr. Steve. She had worked with him at a hospital, and he went to pull his son. They were down in Puerto Vallarta. He went to pull his son out of the water to save him from the undertow, and he ended up drowning. So he came and he had this full conversation with her through me. And she goes, I didn't know you talked to dead people. I said, neither did I. But that's what this like really started to open up for me. So now I talk to dead people. I'm psychic as I'll get out. As a New Yorker, I would use a different word. But anyway, we're on a podcast, so I'm trying to be polite. But the most important thing that I do, so I'm a psychic, a medium, and a full body trance channel, and I'm a teacher and a healer. And the healing that I do with people is extraordinary because I can see people's Akashic records. I can see where they still have places where they're stuck, where they're in pain, where they have fear. And my body of work is teaching people how to go in and deal with that. It's basically like Einstein's theory of relativity is E equals mc squared. So everything is made of energy, and emotions are energy in motion. When we have an emotion, the energy moves through us. But when we have fear, it comes too quickly, it backs up. And then this mass builds and it turns into cancer and pain in the body. So I have techniques that were taught to me from the ancient Egyptian mystery schools through Jesus and Mary Magdalene and through Isis and through Hathor. And I help people to release all of this. It's breathing, it's meditation, it's all kinds of things, but that's the body of work that I do in the world. And I've been doing that since 1989 as a trained technology. And I now have a universal business that goes all the way around the world that touches people's lives. People come to me all the time. They're like, Jesus sent me, Mary Magdalene sent me, Hathor sent me, Archangel Michael sent me. It's crazy.
Wow. Well, what a huge blessing. And,
Yes.
with you being a trans channel, I understand it's easy for you to differentiate between what are your thoughts
Mhm.
and what are the channeled thoughts. But in case there are people who are new to kind of the channeling, what that is, how how do you know it's not you? Like, how do you know the difference between Lynn's thoughts and channeled material?
It's kind of like, am I using my ego to think or am I using the mind of God? The channeled thoughts are usually much quieter. Um, my egoic thoughts, my Lynn nonsense, as we call it, is usually stuff that doesn't make me feel better about myself, you know?
Mm.
Like the places where I'm chastising myself for having done something I shouldn't do or not doing something that I wanted to do. But the thoughts that come from them are like, good morning, beloved. Today we would like you to take a walk to the park. Today, we would like you to swing on the swing because we know how happy that makes you. Today, we would like you to make sure that you have an extra bottle of water. They're just always encouraging and nurturing. With this one client, we would like you to take this approach. They're very consultative, and I've just trained myself to be able to discern between them. And sometimes they're like, beloved, you've been thinking about this and you've been thinking in a negative pattern. We would like you to reframe your thinking and look at it through this perception or through these eyes. And they help me to rethink things. I've learned to imagine myself going up into the theta realm to talk with them. And it's the realm of like pure potentiality. So if I say that I want something to manifest, I'll go up and I'll say something like, Father, Mother, God, Source, Creator, it is commanded, because you can actually put a command, like putting a command into a computer. You can put a command into the quantum field. It is commanded that I receive $30,000 this week, and $30,000 will show up. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
If I want this thing or that thing, or have something to appear in my life. So one of the things that's really important for me with women is that women know how to access wealth because that hasn't always been granted. And one of the things that I do is I teach people to have, through the teachings of Mary Magdalene, of Isis, and the ancient mystery schools, I teach people to have just like the healthiest sense of self-esteem and self-love and self-regard, and to help them to release whatever patterns or thoughts they've had that have been negative for them. I mean, I do that in all areas of life, but I really want to help women have wealth in their life, so that the sense of fear or insecurity or thinking that they have to get it from somebody else, they can learn that that's something that they can create for themselves. So that's really important to me as well.
Mm, beautiful. And is this related to the goddess zone? Talk about the goddess zone and how you help people to get there, if that's different from what you just said.
No, that's exactly it. When you wake up and you determine, today I'm going to think with the mind of God, or I'm going to think with the mind of the goddess, you immediately begin to align yourself. You'll get messages, you'll get songs, you'll get conversations, you'll see signs. Living within what my mentor, Melanie, calls the God zone, which I call the goddess zone because of how much work that I do with Mary Magdalene, means that you're looking for the best in people. Jesus said, if you have someone that you have a challenge with, I want you to look at them until you can see me looking back at you through their eyes. Like, it just moves me.
Mm.
I want you to look at their heart, and I want you to feel my heart within them. And when I do that, there's such a shift in consciousness. I literally just get blown away. Like, when I channel them, sometimes I cry from how much love it is that I feel from them when I bring them through. So living in the God zone means making a conscious choice. My mentor said this great thing. She said, I want you to picture an hourglass, and one side of the sand is filled with fear and the other one is filled with faith. If you notice that you're fearful about something, turn it upside down and allow yourself to just have faith that God is the one that's in charge of everything. And whether we think it or not, like, we'll look at a circumstance and go, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. There, I promise you that God's in the midst of that, and
Mm.
that somewhere there's a miracle, and you have to look for that. Instead of looking for what's wrong, look for what's right with the circumstance and be grateful. Be so incredibly grateful. Thank you that this thing has come to me, and please show me the miracle that's meant to come from it, because that's literally how life works. So
Mm.
miraculous.
Wow, I love that. Now, you were saying in the beginning that you can feel that there are many, many beings with you now, or at least there were when we began.
Yeah, there's 17 that are here right now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to tap in? Do you want to see if they have a message for the audience, or do you want to keep going I have a ton of questions for you. So, I mean, there's no shortage of questions, but if you feel like anything wants to come through, you tell me.
I haven't done this on a podcast before, but Mary Magdalene said she's willing to come through.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm going to actually go into trance and allow her to bring forth a message of love. I may end up crying, because I do whenever I channel her. She's just so extraordinary. Jesus said she went from being my student to becoming my teacher. And he said she is the greatest living embodiment of a Christed being that has ever walked on the earth.
Wow.
And she's just extraordinary. There's so much love. My Akashic Records revealed that I was one of Jesus's younger sisters, younger when he was alive. And so he and Magdalene were married and they had children. And the very first time she came to me for her to channel her in 2018, she said, thank you for taking care of the children, which is what she always said to me. It was my like secret password between us. She's just a being that I loved and love. And this is why I'm writing this book with her that's called the Life and Truth of Mary Magdalene, La Vie et la Vérité de Mary Magdalene. And as I mentioned earlier on the other platform, I'm headed to Europe on the 27th of this month, and I'll be there for a month finishing her book.
Mm,
So let me bring her forth. This will take a moment for the transition.
okay.
Mhm. Greetings, beloved one.
Greetings.
It is our delight to be with you. We thank you for this invitation. We thank you for the willingness to have this conversation with us. The message that we have for you and for many is, when you allow yourself to focus upon love, you will realize that everything that has ever been created in the world was created as a solution to a problem. Everything from the glass that you may drink liquid from the silverware that you use to consume your meats, from the chair that was created so a being may sit, to an automobile, to a train, to a car, a plane, buses, scooters. Every mode of transportation was to assist humanity. Every time that a child is created through a union, even it appears to be violent, understand that there have been soul contracts to bring that soul forth. It is always done with love, for love is the very fabric of the universe in which each being dwells. Mm. Beloved, there are members of your family that are here sending you their love. They appreciate how it is that you walk in the world. They appreciate that you have platforms such as these. Know that you are loved, supported, and surrounded by many. There is an archangel by the name of Zadkiel who is very much attentive to your journey through humanity. Please allow yourself to communicate with this beloved being. We thank you. We thank all of you who will tune in to listen to this beautiful transmission. And we say thank you for the journeys that each of you have that allow you to find your way back home to the truth of you. Understand that, beloved, you are in the midst of a dream, and you will allow yourselves to waken from the dream when it is your time. Before then, continue to have fun, continue to find joy, and continue to love. Greetings and salutations, beloved ones. Oof.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for bringing her through. I had so many, like in the back of my head, so many like sparkly sensations. And I don't know how much you take in when you're
I,
channeling.
none of it. I'm
Okay.
an unconscious channel.
So it was a really beautiful message about how love is the foundation of everything and everything can be found in love. And but then she mentioned for me in particular, Archangel Zadkiel,
Oh,
which is I mean, in my world, sort of a random archangel, but it is one that I include in my prayers. You know,
see?
I,
See?
yeah, I pray.
Like, yeah,
I
that's
include,
incredible.
yeah, I include Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Zadkiel. And I just had somebody on the podcast from Australia who channels him.
Wow.
And so like he's showing up strong in my world, even though for me he's lesser known. You know, I'm still trying to get, I don't know, does he come up much in your world?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at
So
all. Not at all. So then that was specifically tailored to you. It's funny, she's never come through on a podcast before, so this was precious.
well, I'm so honored. That's so beautiful.
Mm.
I mean, what an honor. I so talk about the role that intuition plays in your everyday life. Now, you obviously have like
Developed.
intuition off the charts on steroids.
See, here's the deal. Intuition is spirit talking to us. It's that thing in our belly that's either a hell yes or a hell no. It's the aspect of us that isn't the humanity, that isn't the ego. It's the one that says, this is what's going to bring you closer to God. This is what's going to elevate your soul. This is what's going to raise your frequency. So I say to people, and I found out in human design, I am a solar plexus authority, which means that I have a defined sacral. So if something is a no for me, I couldn't do it if I wanted to, you know? I I can only like I speak the truth. I saw this friend, their tagline on WhatsApp said, I only speak the truth, be careful. Crack me up. But I think that in life, if one is willing to remove everything, like every lie that we've ever told, if you can put it on paper and forgive yourself for it and then just burn it in the light, I think that what it does is it opens up our access to our own truth, and then we can really know and understand when spirit is speaking to us. You have to be willing to hear them.
Mm.
And you obviously have a very high level of clairaudience that you were able to hear those voices and how it is that they came through. And I pray that they came through on the recording. Like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Be really amazing.
Yeah.
I think that intuition, if a person wants to develop something, all they have to do, like we have free will, and every thought that we think creates, Jesus said, it's if you fully realized that every thought that you think creates, you would never think a negative thought in your life. Because literally negative thoughts will bring negative results in our life. Focus upon what is right with people, focus upon what is good with people, focus upon love. And I know that can be challenging. I just had someone take $3,600 out of one of my accounts. And I was like, oh, wow, that's fascinating. And I said to Yeshua, why did this happen? And he said, because you needed to find out who this person was and what they're doing. And so I filed a fraud claim. And I said, and what if I don't get the money back? And he goes, then it's $3,600 that you've tithed for something you've done in the past. Just make peace with it. And I'm like, okay.
Mm.
So, and then $1,800 dropped in my lap as a miracle today. So, the universe will always take care of us.
Wow.
Always takes care of us. It's really amazing.
That is so beautiful. So I want to go back to the Akashic Records. I am very curious what is it like for you when
Mm.
you join into the Akashic Records? How do you get the info? What are you experiencing?
Literally like being on ayahuasca. I don't know if you've ever worked with plant medicine. I have for over 35 years, with a shaman from Peru. And you go into an altered frequency. That's the best way I can describe it. It's no longer like you and I having this conversation. The same thing happens when I channel them. I leave with them, but with the Akashic Records, when I channel the Akashic Records, the same thing happens. I just don't know the beings that I'm bringing forth because I'm bringing through your masters, teachers, loved ones, and the lords of the records. So I go deeply into a trance when I read someone's Akashic Records, and the same thing happens. I don't have recollection. And God, that this is how I've gotten to 1,000, because I do these free master classes on Friday where people come and say there's 20 people there. My assistant, who's also very psychic, chooses one person for reading. I get that person's name, I say the prayer, I read their records, and then when it's done, there's a closing prayer, and you say the records are now closed 3 times, amen. And then I come back and I have no idea what was spoken. I know what it feels like to me is they scoop me out. They put me at the end of like a major football stadium or something like that. And they're on the stage and they're whispering. And I'm way, 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 way on the other side. And I don't know what they're saying. But there's this feeling of being in an altered state, I think is the best way I could describe it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Mhm.
It's so amazing. And then, so are you seeing a place or you're just kind of checked out?
I'm checked out when I see things. Like if I do a reading, my sister's best friend Jill, her father died, and she said, "Can you contact my dad?" And her dad kept showing me images of giraffes, and I'm like, "Jill, your dad keeps showing me images of giraffes," and she goes, "Giraffes? There are no giraffes." I said, "Well, that's what I see." So she goes home to her mom, and she goes, "Mom, I asked Pam's sister Lynn to do a psychic reading for Dad, and she didn't really get anything except a bunch of giraffes." And Jill's mother says, "Oh, your father and I have a huge giraffe collection." And she's like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, wooden giraffes, glass giraffes, plastic giraffes." She goes, "Where is it?" And she goes, in the bottom of the curio cabinet." So Jill goes and opens it, and there are all these giraffes. So they'll try to bring through psychic evidence, either in the things that they say or in the images that they show you. One time I was with a dear friend of mine, and I bought this little keychain that said L on it for Lynn LaBorde. And it had a little picture of Mickey Mouse, and he was like coming over the edge of the L. You could see his little ears and his nose. And my friend Levi turned to me and he goes, "Your grandmother loves your keychain." And this was my mother's mother. And I'm like, "Aw." I mean, I don't know. There's so many different stories, so many different ways. I study the cards of destiny and I do cards of destiny readings. And one day my sister sends me this little tin box and I open it up and there's a deck of cards and these clippings from 1928 about how the cards work. And I go, "Pam, what is this?" And she said, "Aunt Jane wanted me to send it to you. It was Grandma Elsie's card deck, and she wanted you to have it." And my grandmother, who I didn't meet, she passed before my parents even got married, a couple of years before I was born, is studying the cards of destiny in the 20s. She's the same grandmother came through, and she was a huge mystic. I just found out that she and my grandfather he was a 33-degree Mason in Freemasonry. Then we have a Masonic temple in my town, like how random. And she was part of what was called the Eastern Star, I think, which is the women who studied that order. So I have a long line of witches and mystics and spiritual people in my family.
Wow.
I completely forgot what your question was. I apologize.
It was kind of like, what is it like in the Akashic Records? What do you
It's
experience?
it's all I know is I'm being used as a channel. I'm being used as a conduit so that I can bring forth information for people.
Mhm.
And it's a surreal experience. It feels to me like I said, they showed up, these beings were jumping up and down screaming halls of Amenti the very first time I ever opened the records. And I went back in tentatively and I'm like, hi, could you guys, I got a little scared. Could you calm down? And they were like, welcome back, beloved. You know, the last time you were consciously aware of us was when you were in charge of the Akashic Records in Atlantis. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know, the stuff you can't make this up. I'm not Steven Spielberg. I'm not George Lucas. I can't make this stuff up. Like this has to come from somewhere. And it comes from spirit.
Oops. Wow. It's so fascinating. And I've just loved this discussion. As we wrap up here, are there any kind of parting thoughts that come to mind that you want to leave with listeners?
Yeah. If you want to learn how to read the Akashic Records, get Linda's book. If you want a journey that's going to take you to understanding your soul, go within. Like that's the greatest wisdom that I get from Yeshua all the time. The kingdom of heaven is within, your answers are within, your Akashic records are within. You don't have to look outside, you don't have to go anywhere. I just get to go to Paris. How lucky am I? And I get to go to these churches and I get to go to St. Baume, the grotto, you know, where Magdalene was, where her church is, where her bones are. But the truth is that you can connect with spirit within your own heart. You have to learn how to marry the heart with the mind. And I teach that in my classes. Because when you're able to do that, when you're able to calm the mind and quiet the mind and get yourself to go into theta, you can have anything. Manifestation comes from you commanding that the universe bring you something, and it does. And all of that happens within you. You can read books, and God knows I have plenty, but the answers for everything that anyone ever wants lives within us. And everybody has access to that.
Beautiful. Well, Reverend Lynn, tell people how they can connect with your work and find out more about you.
I have a website that's called soulmasteryuniversity.com. I have a YouTube channel that has over 3,000 videos on it. It's crazy. And that's called Soma Life Sanctuary, SOHMALIFE Sanctuary. I have over 10,000 followers on TikTok under Reverend LaBorde. I have an Instagram that's Reverend LaBorde, a couple thousand over there. And I'm on Facebook. You can find us. There's Soma Life Quantum Living community over there. You can look me up on Facebook. I lead an Essene community, the daily Essene community, so you can look me up on there. And I'm currently doing a project with Jesus and Mary Magdalene where I channel her in the morning and we read from the Essene Book of Days about the earthly mothers, angels. And then in the evening, I channel Jesus and we're working through a book that is the Essene Gospel of Peace. And we talk about the angels of the evening, the Heavenly Father. So those recordings are also on the YouTube channel. So you can find me there.
Beautiful.
Everywhere.
Well, what a beautiful time with you, Reverend Lynn. Thank you so much for coming on. I've just loved this.
My absolute delight. And thank you. I'm so interested to see what happens. You have to let me know what happened with everything that was on the other platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I send you my love. I will keep you in my prayers. Thank you so much for this. It was my absolute delight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Soul Elevation. Please take a moment to think about someone in your life who might be uplifted or have their curiosity sparked by this content and send it on to them. Let's keep sharing high-frequency, empowering content to reinforce the highest potential for humanity. I also invite you to subscribe to this content. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you for the next episode of Soul Elevation.